The first batch of subway manufactured by China for Boston Subway's new Orange Line are expected to be shipped to the city in December. This is the first time that a Chinese company is exporting its subway trains to the United States with complete Chinese intellectual property. It's also the first time that all systems of the entire vehicle comply with U.S. requirements and standards. Meanwhile, London will welcome groundbreaking new black cabs this November. The world's most advanced electric taxi is manufactured by the Chinese firm Geely. These cases suggest, some say, more people in more countries will commute aboard made-in-China cars and trains in the near future. Certainly something needs to be applauded, but what exactly does it mean? Is China already on the top of the industry? We're going to ask two experts with us in the studio. Mr. Liu Debing, who is the former chairman of China General Consulting and Investment. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Also joining us in Beijing, Mr. Wu Changqi, professor of Guanghua School of Management at Peking University. Welcome as well.
Good evening.
So, are these achievements that we should be really proud, but at the same time, are they really the breakthrough? I think that is the most important question, Mr. Liu.
Sure. You know, that's a great news when China can export our mechanical goods, vehicles, metro, rolling stock to United States. This is really a great news for China, for this nation. I would remember that in 1978, when I joined the organization called CMC, at that year, the total export of China-made machinery was only 330 million US dollar. Yet, now, our export of mechanical goods has reached more than $1 trillion US. You know, how big change we have made in the last nearly 4 decades.
Well, one of the most important characteristics of China is things are changing so fast, right?
Sure.
And including, of course, about manufacturing. But are we really there? Professor Wu, what is your judgment?
Actually, these two items, one is the taxi running in London and that rolling stock in a subsystem in Boston, I would rather call it symbolic. It's symbolic in a sense that these products would be touchable, usable by ordinary citizens. Actually, made in China has been dominating certain sectors, but largely for industrial product. For instance, power plants and bridges, other things, and the construction company. But these three are important. People can touch it.
Right.
This is what we call B2C, 2C. Right? The general public in London and Boston say, okay, here, indeed, we can touch, we can use the goods made in China, not behind the industrial goods that typically provide services.
Well, for example, the high-speed rail.
Yeah.
That, of course, is China very proud of. Some even term it as one of the 4 new inventions of China. Of course, China didn't invent it, but rather put it in a much larger scale when it comes to such a big country. But the question is, high-speed rail projects embodies essence of China's Belt and Road Initiative, but their track record has both successes and setbacks. Successes include China joint venture to build the Istanbul-Ankara high-speed rail in Turkey, opened 2014. China also won the contract to build Jakarta-Bandung Railway in Indonesia. However, high-speed rail projects in Russia and Malaysia are still under development, while similar projects in Thailand and Venezuela have been hit by delays. Notable setbacks also include canceled projects in Mexico and even the United States. So, with a mixed record, Mr. Liu, while we applaud what China could achieve, how are we seeing the real results of China smart manufacturing and its acceptance elsewhere in the world?
I would say that great achievements we have made in the last 2 or 3 decades. And almost, you know, for the high-speed train, we never had, you know, 10 years ago. Now, the total mileage China had is about 60% of the world total. And what is more important, starting from September the 20th this year, between Beijing and Shanghai, our high-speed train moving at a speed of 350 kilometers per hour, which is the highest world over for the commercial operation.
You know, if it's the highest, it's the fastest, and it's the biggest, then there's nothing that the world will be surprised it is in China. But the question is, when it is successful in China, will it be successful elsewhere in the world? I think that is the question, and as a result of that, will others accept the so-called China speed, accept as a result the China products? Mr. Liu, briefly.
You know, for China products, I think it's becoming very popular internationally. Yet, for the high-speed train outside China, I would say there is still a challenge facing this issue.
What exactly is that?
Well, you know, for high-speed train, mainly, you know, building the cost is very high, very expensive, and also for such investment, you need huge money to do that. And also, of course, for the high-speed train, you need to transport large quantity of passengers. And
who has the desire to reach as fast as they can.
That's right.
So there might be a divide in desire, let's just say, between those in China and elsewhere in the world, in other developing countries or emerging economies. Here comes the question, Professor Wu. That is, does China need to adjust itself? I mean, you know, its own smart manufacturing when doing exports overseas. Can China do it well? And on the other hand, what is going to be the budget for that? You know, to change and adjust. Will that be economically viable for China?
China is doing well in certain category of products at the manufactured high value-added product. For instance, telecommunication equipment, switches, digital switches. And we also talk about construction building. But come to that high-speed rail system is a very different story because, of course, this demonstrates the technical sophistication that Chinese manufacturers could do, could achieve. But to make it a commercial success, that's somewhat, there are some preconditions. There must be sufficient distance to let this system to take full advantage of this. Many other countries, China is a continental economy because it's a big, vast land of China, but many other countries may not have. And moreover, there must be population density sufficiently, the population must be sufficiently dense in order to transport the people. Moreover, the pace of economic activities.
And the maintenance of it
maintenance
for the long
service,
term.
Yes.
Yeah. So all of these are questions facing China when you are seeing the world is working with China on the Belt and Road Initiative.
Yes.
You know, it doesn't work if there's only big investment.
Right.
It doesn't work if you only export certain kinds of manufacturing overseas. It doesn't work if you have a whole China team over there, put it over there, and then you go. It's not going to work. But it has to work with some kinds of sustainable, interactive system that you build with the local community over there. But that is a long-term thing that we're talking about here. China is new in that regard, even though China has some earlier experiences developing in African countries.
Indeed, in August, I happened to visit Ethiopia to see that the rail system constructed by China Rail Construction Company and others, this is over 700 kilometer system. Actually, China has completely using its technology and to build this railroad.
Right.
But moreover, the Chinese companies continue to transfer the system to the local community. There are 6 years after the construction, the Chinese staff engineers will help one-to-one to transfer. That is very important. Maintenance that makes this Addis Ababa to Djibouti rail system.
So you see two sets of issues, actually, Mr. Liu, facing China. Okay, to the developed countries, some of the most advanced economies, one of the things is important for them to accept the Chinese product, to let them believe and see the quality of it. Secondly, to meet their IPR and also different kinds of standards. But to the developing countries, it is about adjustment of your products. It's about patience. It's about interacting. It's about capacity building. So it's two very set of tasks facing China today if China really wants to do quality when it comes to exports, smart manufacturing. Mr. Liu.
Sure. I would suggest that perhaps, you know, we could work in both ways. For some project, we can handle, Chinese enterprises can handle independently, internationally, either in developed world as well as developing countries. And also, second, you know, solution could be we would work with both developed countries as well as developing countries to cooperate, to coordinate, you know, for this huge project. As you said, that, you know, a single project might not turn out for those economic efficiency or social benefit. We would have to have a very integrated, comprehensive arrangement.
Professor Wu, you know, before, China was absorbing
Yes.
anything best in the world. And let's learn. Let's just do research about it and make it better, right? Okay, now it's complicated. It's not just about one way. It's about interaction. It's both ways and many times. So here comes the needs and necessity for patience, understanding, skills of communications, and be able to go to the depth of really the basic system of the countries you're working with and try to be part of it. This is unprecedented, shall we say, for China, which has been a country mainly looking inward, if you look at the history over the past few hundred years. So what is likely to take to make this all sets of capacities and tools happen in China?
That's indeed a very important point. This is why the new leadership promotes this part of the process of globalization. Actually, I'll tell you one statistic, because I'm working in the universities, that it's called co-authorship.
Right.
That's a scientific paper, a discovery jointly put together by a Chinese scholar and American scholar, a Japanese scholar, a British scholar. Actually, this co-authorship across nations, China dominates. That many of the scientific discovery actually are joint work with international teams. But more importantly, you see, that China also jointly now is setting up some standard, international standard, right? And this is indeed a joint effort in order to push China up to China's research and industry never is close. Regarding the Made in China 2025, that the Chinese government also announced it's the welcome international collaboration to develop this system. Right?
Whether it is a subway in Boston or the taxi in London, these are sporadic individual cases. How should we put them in the overall bigger context of where China is and how China is interacting with the world? We only have less than 40 seconds left, so which means 20 seconds for each of you. So, gentlemen, would you like to sum it up and help us understand better?
You know, that is completely the result of China opening to outside world as well as the international globalization.
As simple as that and as complicated as that. And what about you, Professor Wu?
That China's export product increasingly climbed to the technical ladder, from textile garment to machinery, now to the everyday usage, and people in advanced countries, the most picky places to use, and they enjoyed it.
All right, we hope that will be the case. Thank you so much, Liu Debing and Wu Changqi. Really appreciate, gentlemen, for being with us.
Thank you.